Another edition of the Hispanic Patriot, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location deep behind enemy lines in Denver, Colorado. Here we speak the truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God. And now, without further ado, here's the host of the Hispanic Patriot, Hugo Chavez Ray. Give it up.
Hello. Fresh back from the mother country, Spain, where we saw a lot, did a lot, ate a lot, drank a lot. We had a great time. I did see the last two episodes of the Patriot, the Hispanic Patriot, and they were great. I want to thank George Rodriguez and Adriana for doing the last two shows. Hope y'all got some good information from them. George is a wealth of information. He's a pro. He's a veteran at this stuff, so I'm sure he gave y'all some good details about what he's been up to and some of the opinions of what we're seeing. So I see that I left the country and all hell breaks loose. So first we oust the Speaker of the House, and then they're trying to scramble to see about the replacement. I've done a little bit of research on it. I haven't had a chance to really delve deeply into what took place, but from what I read, it was justified. Some people think that the Republicans who moved forward with the move are rebels, or maybe they are. Maybe it's a good thing we have some rebels in the Republican Party. But the Speaker, accepted the position under the promises that he was going to keep for the Freedom Caucus. He ended up not keeping his promises, and one of the stipulations about him being selected Speaker was that there was a provision that one member of the House could initiate an order to vacate the chair, which is exactly what happened. There are various reasons for what the Speaker, or why the Speaker, Speaker McCarthy was asked to vacate the chair, and from all accounts, they were legitimate. He agreed to those terms when he took the position, and so really, I don't see much of an argument there. These stipulations were agreed upon before he took the position, and so you go with what you promise, and you go with what the parameters were for him accepting and being elected Speaker of the House. So he didn't live up to the level of commitment that was expected, and he was asked to vacate the chair appropriately, in my opinion, based on what I've seen and read. So again, we'll probably get into more detail about what's going on, and now they're in the process of trying to select a replacement Speaker, and it looks like it's between two people. That's Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan. Steve Scalise from Louisiana and Jim Jordan from Ohio or Indiana. Now I can't think of I think he's Ohio, but at any rate, the race is on to see who is going to be our new Speaker. So they had a vote yesterday, and it appears that out of the conference, Steve Scalise came out on top, but that's not the election. That's simply who they're going to put forth. But at the actual vote is what counts. And in order to become Speaker, you have to have 217 votes in the House. Now, the Republicans hold a slight majority. I believe we're at 221 or 222. So you could only have effectively, oh, four, maybe five uh, members defect from the Republican caucus, which to me is ridiculous. I mean, if you're a Republican representative, you should be voting together and not be splitting up the vote and allowing the Democrats to get their 2 cents worth in. Democrats have all agreed that they're going to vote for that that self-avowed communist Jeffries out of loyalty. So that right there goes to tell you how they perform, how they act, as opposed to how Republicans act. So it'll be interesting to watch to see what unfolds in the coming days. Of course, the talking heads are all up in arms, saying that because of the lack of a speaker, that business can't be conducted, and that's false, because there is a speaker pro tem right now, and that's Patrick Henry, I believe his name is. He is the interim speaker right now, and any business that the House can conduct can be conducted with him as the leader. So there's nothing holding up. Don't believe the talking heads on all the alphabet networks that are anti-Republican. They're just trying to stir the pot. But it will be, from what I'm seeing, it'll be either Steve Scalise or Jim Jordan that is going to be the new speaker. So we'll have to see what unfolds in the coming days. One of the key issues, of course, right now is the situation in Israel. I was on my way back from Spain when things were starting to unfold there, and then, of course, the sneak attacks that took place after I got back, which was, I believe, last Saturday, is when they were initiated. Cold-blooded, cold-hearted attacks upon innocent people, including women and children.
Babies, bullet-ridden babies.
Babies being beheaded. I mean, I'm just at a loss for words. The only thing I can say about those type of individuals is that they're animals and that they need to be removed from the face of the earth. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is correct in saying that the only response now is complete and utter annihilation of Hamas, and that's the only result that can happen from what just took place. Iran is trying to play like they're not involved, but anybody with half a brain that pays attention to what's been going in the Middle East knows that Hamas pulls all the strings. They are the state sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East, and especially against Israel. Hamas, Hezbollah, they're all supported 90+% by Iranian money, and the mullahs that are in there, those people are the ones calling the shots. So I don't want to hear anybody claim that that Iran is not involved. And for our government officials to stand up there before microphones and say that there's not enough evidence just shows where their mindset is. So it's going to be hell to pay, I believe. And Iran is complicit. And I believe once Israel takes care of Hamas and possibly Hezbollah, who is making moves like they want to get involved in this fracas, I think they may be deterred when they see what Israel is going to do to Hamas, because the only thing that's going to result from this is the elimination of Hamas. They have been, the humanitarians that the Israelis are, they have actually dropped flyers into Gaza and told the innocent people that they need to get out because there is not going to be anything holding back. So if they don't get out, that's on them. I take that. That's akin to me to what happened in World War II uh, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki when Americans dropped hundreds of thousands of flyers on the two cities, letting the people know that what was coming. And if they didn't leave, then that was on them, in my opinion. I mean, that's all you can do. You can't hold back the response that, or the only response, in my opinion, that can happen for what has taken place in Israel by these barbarians. And the only thing that they're going to learn, the only thing that's going to make them learn is total annihilation. And I think I'm 100% behind that. Anybody with half a brain, half a heart has to understand that these people are not people. They're barbarians. I mean, they make Genghis Khan look uh, like a Boy Scout, in my opinion. And then you've got, of course, all these groups here in this country uh, protesting and supporting Hamas as if this is some sort of rallying cry. I was glad to see what happened at Harvard. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Where
How they disavowed the student groups that were
yes,
standing with Palestine on this.
and all the people that got behind that anti and pro Hamas letter that they sent out, um, all those people that got behind that letter received letters of their own from employers that had offered them jobs, and they rescinded their job offers because of that. So, and now they're trying to backtrack from what I'm seeing. I saw some reports that some of the people that signed on to that letter are trying to backtrack and say, "Oh no, we didn't really mean it." Well, too bad. You did sign it. You did mean it, and now you're going to pay the price. So I'm glad to see that those things are evolving. I'm not a big fan of academia in general in the United States, but I'm glad to see that at least the administration at Harvard uh, decided that enough was enough and that they weren't going to uh, show any kind of support for these student groups, and they disavowed them. And then followed up by the employers who had the guts to pull back job offers to all those Harvard people that had been made very lucrative job offers in some cases. So now they're going to scramble. Now they're going to pay for what they've done in the sense of who they're supporting. And there was I was watching a report on Fox about from one of the Israeli former Israeli IDF forces um, that were saying that the American government should take a very close look at all these protests that are taking place. We have the technology to identify every one of those people that are at these protests, find them, find out which ones are here illegally, and immediately deport them.
Mm-hmm.
Because those people are not to be coddled here in this country. They need to be. Look at what they did with the January 6th people. You're telling me we don't have the technology to identify every one of these people that are out there protesting in support of Hamas? They need to be identified, and if they're here illegally, and if they're not citizens, even if they're here legally, if they're not citizens, they need to be deported, because basically what they're saying is we stand with terrorism. And guess what? Joe Biden administration has allowed the influx of over 8 million illegal immigrants since he took office. Now, how many of those do you think are terrorists that have been planted in our country now, that are setting up cells and waiting for a time to strike within our country? it's a terrible situation that we're facing because we don't know. But just common sense tells you that there are a lot of them that got through that are now inside our borders and uh, working diligently to plan, plot, and execute attacks within the United States, just like what happened in 9/11 when that group of terrorists got into the country, uh, plotted for this thing for 9/11 for, from what I understand, 2 or 3 years or more, and then executed the plan. So, where are these people? Where are they going to strike? I'm encouraging people to be alert. Don't don't venture into places where there are crowds. Um, I heard a report yesterday, and I don't know how credible it is, but supposedly tomorrow, Friday the 13th, there has been a an edict put out by the terrorist groups to effect jihad within the United States. So, are we going to see a bunch of attacks tomorrow? Um, I don't know. I hope. I pray not. But it wouldn't surprise me if some things did happen.
Well, and it's
Not
precisely, silver lining with this is something that's uniting Americans now. Because you got to think about it. Like, think about woke Hollywood, for example. Well, majority of these, the bigwigs in Hollywood and, pushing all this stuff that, is dividing this country, they're Jewish, and so you got a lot of Jews on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, and a lot of people that we as Americans, we have a very special relationship with Israel, obviously. And an attack on Israel is essentially an attack on us. Russia, China, specifically China, Iran, all these communist states, they consider Israel our pawn. The pawn of the United States.
well, they're the little Satan. We're the big Satan.
Right. So an attack on them is an attack on us and our way of life. And so it's like China, for example, could very well get pulled. I mean, I personally believe they helped set up this attack and provided missiles and things of that nature. I've been reading stuff they have not disavowed it. They have not done anything. All they're doing is threatening us to stay away from their invasion of Taiwan. Essentially, they want to do the same thing. Yeah. And so it's, we have enemies. We as a nation have enemies, both domestic and abroad. But I think things like this, just like 9/11, when we got sucker punched there and Israel just got sucker punched, we united as a country and said, okay.
I'll take that one step further. Civilization has enemies, and these enemies are hell-bent on destruction of the planet as we know it, because their end game is world domination.
Right, one world order.
The jihadists, the radical Muslims, and I feel sorry for those Muslims that are not part of this jihadist movement, but this is the time, if ever there was a time, where these Muslims that are here in the United States who are not supportive of this type of activity, they need to speak out. And if they don't, then they're complicit by their silence, in my opinion. And that goes for the Jewish community. We know that Jewish community votes overwhelmingly with Democrats. And if this doesn't turn their stomach and turn their votes away from those people who are now, we have basically jihadists within our Congress, the squad, people like Rashida Tlaib, who is an rabid anti-Semitism. She flies a Palestinian flag outside her congressional office. Now you tell me, what kind of cretin that says they're a U.S. representative is going to support a group like Hamas. They've tried to interview her. She won't speak now, but right outside her office, they showed it on camera. She's flying a Palestinian flag. Now, what does that say? That's all we need to know about her and her other cohorts that are known as the Squad. They're all anti-Semitists. They espouse the destruction of Israel. They hate Israel, and yet they're serving in our Congress. I'm beyond speechless on that. The people in those districts that elect those kind of people, they need their brain examined, in my opinion, if they don't get rid of these people from Congress, because they have no rights. They have no reason to be within the U.S. Congress. They're despicable people. They hate America. They hate everything that we stand for, and yet they want to serve in our Congress. And their end game is the same thing. They're backed by the Muslim Brotherhood, which, if you know a little bit about that, the Muslim Brotherhood is basically a jihadist organization within the United States. And they back all these candidates, radical candidates that they've elected in certain districts, because their end game is also infiltration. And they've infiltrated our Congress. They've infiltrated cities and other government positions around the country. And people better wake up, because this is a movement that is not going to sleep. They're not going to stop until they're stopped. And we have to stop them as Americans. And in my opinion, by any means necessary. If you can't vote them out, then they need to be removed by force, in my opinion. But that's what's going on in this country. This attack on Israel comes at a very interesting time, if you think about it. What was dominating the news before this attack? All of the Biden corruption and everything that was taking place has now disappeared from the airwaves. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear a thing about it. All we're hearing now is about Hamas, Israel, how Israel needs to be, how did they put it? Some of the people were calling for Israel to use restraint. Really? Restraint? Somebody comes into my house and kills my family. They want me to use restraint?
Right.
I don't think so. The time for restraint has passed, and Israel is now dedicated to the destruction and annihilation of Hamas, and rightfully so.
Right.
There's absolutely no other alternative now. You can't negotiate with them. You can't deal with them and try to live with them. They need to be annihilated. Period.
When a wolf comes in and kills your sheep, starts eating your sheep, you don't go like feed it biscuits and hopefully like try and rub its belly. You shoot it. I mean, that's exactly. These are wolves. We have wolves. We have wolves in our midst, enemies in our midst who want to see us dead. Yep. It's not. It's the fight. The way that this attack has taken place, it's straight up terrorism. There's absolutely no morality to it. There's no, hey, let's empathize. This is somebody who's is going to kill you, wants to kill you. I mean, let's think about the LGBTQ plus, for example, and all these, that people in this community that are standing with Palestine and these terrorist groups. It's like, if you go to any of these other countries besides Israel, you will be shot. You'll be hung in the city squares. Like, being gay is illegal in Muslim countries.
They'll throw them off roofs. They've done that. I've seen
Israel
videos.
is the only country in the Middle East that you can go and see multiple different cultures that's multicultural, like the United States, where you'll have Muslims and Jews, and you even have homosexual people. I mean, it's a democracy. It's a free democracy. You have Arabs fighting in the Israeli army that are proud to be Israeli because you have Miss Iraq who can go to Israel and hang out with her Israel friends when all of her people she grew up with, her father was in the, Saddam Hussein regime and left because he saw how shady and evil it was. And so now, I mean, she gets disavowed anywhere she goes if she talks to Miss Israel, except for in Israel. Israel's the only place that you can go and actually be free, just like you can here in the States. So
it's amazing to me how you can have gay Americans marching in support of a organization that would kill them in a heartbeat. I can't fathom that kind of rationalization. How do you rationalize that type of action when you have to know, if you have half a brain again, that if you're gay and you're in a Muslim country, you are not treated like you're treated in the United States. You don't have the rights that you have in the United States, but yet these people want to march. And I saw one group portrayed on TV, and I believe they were holding up a flag that said LGBTQ stands with Hamas.
That's crazy.
What?
That's crazy. I mean, it's essentially like saying that's like Jews marching in 1943 through the United States saying we stand with Adolf Hitler. It's like it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make sense.
Can you imagine the Jewish community marching down New York City during World War II and carrying swastikas and saying we support Hitler?
And it's like, so that's the thing. There's a difference. There's a difference between good and evil, and freedom and dictatorships. Here we have the right to talk about stuff. We have the right to live how we want to live. We as a nation have liberated minorities, women, and the homosexual community more than any other country in the history of the world. And we have a history, but how far we've come, and the faith that our country is built on, the Bible, the Judeo-Christian Western way, is freedom. It is, you're allowed to live how you see fit, so long as you're not hurting other people, and you're allowed to worship God as you see fit, so long as you're not hurting other people. And I mean, it's we have a free society where we can do this. We can talk and have differences of opinion, but it's
so think about this right now. How strategic does Donald Trump look for moving the American embassy to Jerusalem now? Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how many people were opposed to that.
From where? Where was it before?
I believe, I'm trying to think of the city that it was in, but it was not in Jerusalem. And
was it in Israel, or it wasn't?
It was in Israel.
Okay.
I'm talking about the American embassy in Israel.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of the city now, but it had been there forever. I think it was maybe Tel Aviv. I'm not sure, but anyway, Trump was determined to move the American embassy to Jerusalem, and he did it. And he had a very good reason for doing it. He wanted to make sure that the U.S. was firmly within the city of Jerusalem, and that it was going to be a location that made a statement that said, we stand with the nation of Israel, and if you're going to try to attack this embassy, it's going to be here. And it's also protected, of course, by the Israeli. But it was a very strategic move. A lot of the leftists were dead set against it. He did it, and now look at the strategy of that move. Mm. Now we have a situation where a number of things are going to unfold, in my opinion, just on the very few days that I've had a chance to digest some of the reporting. I've heard from former Pentagon officials. There's a general who's a Fox News contributor. I'm trying to think of his name now. He was on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's retired now, 4-star general, and he was talking about how this now has basically unhandcuffed Israel to do what they need to do and should have done a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now
ensure
there's
their own
nobody.
survival. I mean, they have to fight to ensure their own survival. It's a God-given right.
But there's nothing that's going to hold Israel back now,
Mm-hmm.
and they have the full moral authority to do what they need to do, and anybody that opposes them basically is a terrorist supporter, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be, it's going to be a bloodbath. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. And it looks like it's going to start here any day. They're giving people a chance that want to get out, a chance to get out, the innocent people. But if they don't, then that's on them, and they're gonna go down with the rest of the animals that are gonna be slaughtered. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way that's the only response that you can have. And they have to be destroyed until there's not one left standing. And then if Hezbollah wants to jump into the fray, they'll suffer the same fate. Trust me on that one.
Mm.
So
yeah, Israel knows how to fight. they've been fighting for their lives for thousands of years.
They're the 5th best army on the planet. Mm-hmm. For a reason. They're well trained, they're well armed, and they're no dummies.
And guess what they're doing? Israel all of a sudden loosened up all their gun laws because they, so they were one of the strictest nations on the vaccine and lockdowns and all that, which is funny because they were also one of the most they had so many issues and cases of COVID and all that. But now this type of stuff happens, and all of a sudden they're loosening up gun laws. Why?
Well, they're arming their population.
Yeah, they should.
I saw a report.
Point. Like, we need to be able to do that too. We've got with our open borders. We're talking. People are saying, "Hey, look, militia up! Like, protect yourselves. Don't wait for the government to come and protect you, or the police to come and protect you." I mean, they even if they wanted to, you got to be able to protect yourself from these animals. I mean, they are.
I can tell you,
evil. This is straight up evil incarnate. So
I can tell you with no compunction that Texas is one of the most heavily armed states in the country now. Mm-hmm. And the ranchers, all the patriots down there, they are armed to the teeth, mm-hmm. and they are going to repel anything that tries to exact any kind of force upon them.
Yeah.
They will not sit idly by and be overrun. They will fight, and they've got a government that will do it, and a population that will do it. And there was I sent you a video earlier that very interesting, related to Donald Trump, and it has to do with Latinos for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the Latinos for Trump movement is growing leaps and bounds, and now the Black community has joined them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You need to watch this YouTube video that I sent you. It's really it's very interesting about and it's a show from a fellow Christian brother who was reporting on how the Trump movement is growing, the MAGA movement is growing among Blacks and Hispanics, and he said it's growing leaps and bounds, and he said the Democrats are in deep trouble,
right?
Because he says by his estimates, the Black community is now around 20% in support of Trump. This video has some video footage of songs that they've created, rap songs, and then there's a Latino.
Yeah, it's all. I subscribed to them like weeks ago. Latinos for Trump. I subscribed to them a while ago. I mean, it's cool. It's great
but
to see. Well, Americans are waking up. Whether you're a Hispanic American, Black American, white, whatever, Euro, Jewish American. I mean, this is the type of stuff that Americans, we unite when we're threatened, you know, when you're put into a corner. When you get complacent and things are easy and everything, you know, that's when people get all stupid and liberal and lazy and, oh yeah, let's give them all our guns and let's just eat all our fast food and sit back like everything's going to be all good. No, we've got enemies. We've got other people in the country that want to snuff us out just as bad as they want to snuff Israel out in other parts of the world. And all of a sudden, all these free Americans, wherever you're from, whether you're first generation, like your parents came over and migrated here, or whether you go all the way back to the beginning, it's like, you know, people, once you're here and you realize, oh yeah, shit, I like my Starbucks on a Sunday morning, and I like my, you know, I like to go to IHOP or Cracker Barrel or McDonald's and get my McFlurry. Like this type of stuff is, you know, it's blessing. It is blessing directly from the hand of God, and it can go away very quickly. And I think people.
Well, one of the videos that I was watching from the rap, they were wearing MAGA hats, and one of the lyrics in the song was they were referring to Trump gets a mug shot, I vote for Trump. So,
right, that's what happened. As soon as he got indicted, that whole indictment backfired. And all of a sudden, the Black community is like, oh, this guy, they locked him up. So they saw him being oppressed by the man, you know. The man now is Biden and the Democrats, you know. Like
Trump now has street cred.
Right.
Big time.
Well, he got fired out. I mean, he's one of the most hated and persecuted presidents of in the history of this nation. He's one of the most polarizing presidents, which goes to show you something. The most powerful, the most influential leaders for the best, and you know, Jesus Christ, the Apostle Paul, Martin Luther. These guys are all extremely polarizing. You know, I'm just talking about the history of the church. And throughout,
I gotta share something with you. When we arrived on the train from Madrid to Barcelona, guess what I saw at the train station?
What's that?
Some jerk American was sitting there wearing a Biden Harris T-shirt.
Only in Spain. Only in
Spain. Barcelona.
Yeah.
And I looked at him, and he didn't catch eye contact with me, but I mean, amazing to me. I had to go halfway around the world, and I run into this jerk.
Because he can't wear it in the States. Too many people are like, you know, probably jump him or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So here, I want to know what's up with Trump. Did you see that video going around? He was like saying how Nancy Pelosi is just this great speaker, and was that old or new? Have you seen that? I watched this video. It might have been an old video, not worth talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
that must have been something old. I
have to look it up, but you know,
Are you saying he was praising her?
Trump, there's a few things I've seen of Trump like getting moderate on certain issues. He's kind of like backing off the gas a little bit. I think he's getting a little cocky, and I'm going, well, we're not there yet, so don't count your chickens before they hatch. You know?
Yeah, I don't see.
We'll have to get into that more. I'll get some more.
I've learned. I'll get that. Here's what I've learned about Donald Trump since 2015, and that is, if he says or does anything related to the media, he has a purpose. He is the master manipulator of the media, and the media don't even realize how they're manipulated by Donald Trump. I've never seen someone so adept at manipulating the left-wing media as he is, and they're clueless when it comes to what he. You know, they report on the stuff that he wants them to report on. I was just watching a clip of an interview with a MSNBC reporter. I didn't get to finish watching it, but I noticed one thing though, that she was actually quite respectful to him. She kept calling him Mr. President,
Good.
which a lot of places, they don't. They call him by his first name or whatever, or just his last name. But every time she would ask him a question, it was Mr. President this or Mr. President that. And I thought that was kind of interesting coming from a network like MSNBC. So, and she looked Latina. I can't remember. I didn't pay attention to the name of it, but I saved it on my YouTube. I want to watch the whole interview. But he was talking about certain things, and she was trying to get to him about the things that that Biden was doing or accusing him, etc. And he was right on point with everything that he was responding to. So he's getting better, I think, at speaking in front of these libs. And people say, well, why is he doing interviews with NBC and these liberal left-wing networks? And I think he has a plan. He has a purpose. He says, look, if I'm going to be president, I need to reach all the people. Mm-hmm. And however many people he can reach through those networks, I think are a plus for him, because he's got nothing to lose by going on those networks.
Right.
They hate him anyway, but it's the people that are watching that are going to be, he just made a good point. Or yes, he's got a point about this or that. And the economy is at the top, but now I think this Israeli attack has now opened up the eyes of a lot of people, including people on the left, that realize that the world was a much safer place when Donald Trump was president.
Yeah, not just America, but the entire world.
Exactly.
The entire world. Ukraine would not have happened. This attack on Israel would not have happened. I mean, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers. I mean, now why? Because like all this stuff, it's bonkers what's going on. And people
Trump
like that's why he won
they wouldn't have had that $6 billion prisoner exchange with Iran. I guarantee you that.
And so, I mean, as much as Biden wants to go and disavow everything, he and Obama are very, very much responsible for this.
Do you remember what when the transition from Jimmy Carter? I don't know if you remember. You were kind of young then, but when we transitioned from Jimmy Carter to Ronald Reagan, as soon as he was elected, he went on TV and he issued a warning to Iran. He says, you will let those hostages go, because on January 20th, when I'm inaugurated, if you don't let them go, you're going to pay the price. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically, he issued them a warning. Mm-hmm. And guess what? The minute Ronald Reagan was inaugurated, guess what happened?
He went and got him.
The prisoners were released.
Oh, okay.
Because Iran knew that Reagan meant business.
Yeah.
And if they didn't let those Americans go, that there was going to be hell to pay.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the same type of scenario that Trump has with people like Iran. Mm-hmm. Iran would know in a heartbeat that if Trump said this, that he meant it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't going to be an empty threat.
Right.
An empty word like Biden's trying to play tough guy now with, and act like he cares. He doesn't care.
Right.
Him and Obama are part of the problem. They're the ones that sent them to $6 billion. Now, there's reports that that money is now not going to make it to the Iranians. I'll have to wait and withhold judgment on that if that's the case.
Yeah, they're going to freeze the assets, freeze it.
But yeah, well, I've heard that they pulled the money now. It's the last.
Well, that, I mean, despite what, I don't think Biden's heart or intentions are, noble in this. However, I am glad that he has Yeah. What
Well,
other choice would he have, right? But he did it, so that's nice.
yeah. Well,
Standing with Israel, condemning the attacks, of
well,
course.
we will see.
Right.
I think he's now reaping what he sowed, and he's not he's not all there when it comes to what's really
Oh, I
the
know.
the national
Yeah, I know.
the national opinion now has totally turned against him on this, and he has no option but to to go along with the flow, because if he were to stand up there and try to defend Hamas and these terrorists, I think he would collapse faster than a deck of cards.
Sure.
But that's going to be a very interesting scenario to watch. I predict hell is going to rain on Hamas here within the next week, and unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of innocent people go down. I pray for them, but there's just no other option now. Israel has to do what it needs to do to protect themselves, their territory, and to eliminate this scourge from the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be a strong message, I think, to other terrorist groups. I heard a guy on TV saying that all the terrorist groups are now going to unite and align against Israel. And I'm thinking, no, I don't think that some of these terrorist groups are that stupid. They know the power of Israel, and they have now awakened a sleeping giant, right, to use a previous term that's been used. But
Pearl Harbor, like you said, the parallel. Japan, they knew that was from the Japanese general who he said we've awoken a sleeping giant, and they did, and we entered the war after Pearl Harbor because of they kicked us awake, and so that's what turned. We should have entered sooner, but
I believe, and as I know you do, in divine intervention, and I believe that things are scripted for a reason. I believe this is a wake-up call for Israel, and now there's going to be a price exacted on those barbarians that perpetrated this heinous attack, and I just think it's not going to be pretty. I mean, there's no way to couch this. It's going to be ugly, and unfortunately, there are going to be innocent people killed in this thing. But the blood is on their hands, not Israel's hands. They're giving them time to get out, and I'm hoping and prayerful that the good people that are innocent of this heinous crime take and heed the warning and get out, because they're going to go scorched earth on Gaza, and every rat that's left there is going to be rooted out and annihilated. There's not going to be any capturing for trials or anything. This is all about scorched earth now, in my opinion. So it's going to be something to pray for. We need to pray for the people of Israel. We need to pray for those hostages. But I'm in the school of thought of this one gentleman that was interviewed here yesterday. I believe I saw it. He said, as much as I feel for those hostages, I think you have to consider them dead, because this situation is not going to resolve themselves. If they're willing to go and murder innocent babies and behead them, you think that the minute they see a rescue attempt coming, they're not going to just slaughter whatever hostages they have? So I think the guy's right. I mean, sadly, I think those people are dead already. And so there's nothing to be held. What are they going to do with those hostages? Negotiate? There's no negotiation.
You can't negotiate with terrorists.
There's no negotiation coming from Israel. They're going to say, release them, or else And once they do that, they're going to refuse. They're going to go in, and as they go in, I'm afraid that that's going to be the result. Those hostages are going to be killed. I pray that's not the case. I pray that a miracle happens, and that somehow some or all of the hostages can be rescued. But my gut tells me that's not a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
So,
you know, and I do pray for these young, you know, these terrorist groups. I pray that like, you know, the word says the weapons of our warfare, or no, that we're not waging war against flesh and blood, but against principalities and things of, you know, anything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. There's, you know, this is demonic, and you got a lot of people that grow up. Now justice needs to be served, and like I said, you know, when a wolf comes in and starts eating your sheep, you shoot it. You have to. That's the only recourse. But
yeah.
you know, I pray for Israel. Let's pray right now. Lord, we lift up Israel. We lift up those hostages first and foremost right now. The families of the hostages. We pray safe return. We pray for the families of the hostages, that you would give them whatever kind of solace and peace you can right now. I pray for Israel. I pray that justice is swift and done quickly, and that this is resolved fast, and that the loss of innocent lives is absolutely minimal, Lord. That, you know, you love all people, even in terrible times like this, when we do the worst of the worst to each other. You still love all people, and we're praying for the salvation and the repentance of this evil, and that, Lord, you work in very powerful ways, and you turn the worst of us to the best of us overnight, like you did with Paul and so many others. So Lord, just be in the midst, be with all of the victims, Israel. And we pray for peace in Palestine too, that you would save souls. I hear testimonies of Muslims meeting Jesus in dreams, that Jesus is saving Muslims out of dreams, that he's visiting people, that, you know, everybody's seeking God. Well, his name's Jesus Christ. And Lord, you are the Prince of Peace. So we pray peace. We pray justice, but also mercy and grace would come out of this, and your light would shine in this dark times, and that we as a nation would unite with this, and that we would uproot the evil in our own, inside our own borders. And so just
Yes.
your will be done, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. All things are possible.
That's right.
God.
That's right. So,
So,
you know, we don't have too much time left, but I wanted to hear a little bit about Spain, a little bit about your trip there, and what your takeaways
yeah.
were.
I don't know if you got some of the photos.
I got the one. I didn't get that second email. I only got the first one.
Oh, it didn't come through?
No, but
Okay.
I can show.
Let me see what happened. Oh, yeah. It looks like the file was too large. So
Well, let's bring up this one. Hang on. I'm
let
gonna.
me see if I can delete a few of them and maybe get through. But yeah, the one that I sent you. Let's see if I don't know if that'll come through. But the one that I sent you was actually about a block from our hotel. That's in Madrid, and that's the art. It's called the Art of the Triumph. Was one of the gates that to the city that was preserved from the old wall around the city of Madrid. Um,
Wow.
and Madrid was a city, you know, founded in the Middle Ages and uh, by actually by Muslims and other sects, and the city was eventually made the capital by the monarchy. Um, Back in those days, because they didn't have a real capital, and they felt like this was the appropriate place. At the time, the city was walled, and then eventually, as the city was growing and expanding, they took down the walls. But this was one of the arcs, one of the gates to the city that was that survived. And there's some others that we saw as well. We saw the Royal Palace, and right across from the Royal Palace is the cathedral. And then there's an overlook to an area that they called the countryside, but which was preserved by the royals to be their their place of recreation where they would go and hunt, and so building in those areas was prohibited, and you can see it still. A lot of it is still preserved, and now it's turned into parks and different types of activity. But the moratorium or the ban on building in those areas is still in place from
Wow.
from back in those days. They have preserved that. But the history of Spain is just amazing. I mean, it has so many monarchs, and you can see the progression of the monarchs, and how they the historian that took us on the tour was telling us about how um, the blue bloods, if you will, um, in order to preserve their lineage, um, there was actually a lot of incest that took place in those families because they didn't want to breed with what they considered commoners, and so as a result, there was, as you probably know, inbreeding causes a lot of medical issues, and so some of the offspring of these royals ended up with severe diseases and mental conditions and other things. So it's a very interesting history, to say the
Hmm.
least. And then the monarchy was eventually done away with as far as being uh, the guiding uh, government, so to speak. Uh, it still exists to a point, but uh, it's not at the same level. They still have a king, but the parliament, they have a parliamentarian type government, um,
Hmm.
and the country is interestingly split up into regions, and the different regions actually don't get along. Uh, you have, you know, the the regions to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west. Um, Barcelona is a city that was founded by the Romans back in the year 1050, I think it is. Um, and then it's changed hands several times, of course. But you can see the Roman influence there.
Yeah.
You can see the Moorish and the Muslim influence. You can see a lot of the Muslim influence throughout the country because the the Moroccans, the Moors, they came across the Mediterranean and had control of the country for a while before they were expelled uh, by the monarchs and some of the armies that eventually took back. But the the country, or the influence is there, so you can see the architectural influence in different parts of the country, um, and you can see the government is split. I was watching some of the newscasts on there, and they're in the middle of a situation where the current prime minister is being asked uh, by the current king to come back and form a coalition government because there's a splintered government right now, and this prime minister who was voted out is popular with a segment of the population, but then there's a what they call a right wing uh, conservative that actually won the election, um, but there's opposition. And on our way to the on our way to museum, we walked by the government parliamentary offices, and we could see there was a protest going on at the time, and it was basically the faction that they want the government to that the people elected to take office, and then you have the other faction that wants to get this other prime minister to form what they consider a coalition government, because in a parliamentary process you have to have a coalition. It's not like here where um, if the Democrats win power, they have the power, and so forth. Over there, you have to have a consensus government, otherwise it doesn't function. So it's very interesting what's taking place over there. But it's a very socialistic country. Uh, you know, the people seem to be happy with their socialism, but you can tell the contrast between living under socialism versus complete freedom like we have here. So,
Mm.
so yeah, it was an interesting trip. I want to go back because my next trip I want to go to include the island of Ibiza, which is a part of Spain, and that's where my ancestry traces back to. So I want to see if I can do a little digging and see if I can find any kind of records or whatever to my originating family, which the storyline is that my great 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 grandfather uh, purchased the name Ray to add to the end of Chavez because it was Chavez, and he wanted to distinguish the name separately. So he wanted to add Chavez, Ray to Chavez, and that's how it became Chavez Ray. Um,
Wow.
and so there was a
I thought that
process.
was something you did to distinguish yourself from the Hugo Chavez.
No, no, Chavez Ray is the actual uh, surname. Um,
Oh,
it's
cool.
it's not a maternal uh, surname like a lot of have Hispanics do use maternal. So if I were to add the maternal on mine, it would be Hugo Chavez Ray Garcia.
Oh,
So,
okay.
um, but Chavez Ray is the actual last name, and it's interesting because we got greeted by our driver at the airport in Madrid, and of all things, the driver was from Venezuela,
Huh.
and she kept calling me Hugo Chavez, and I kept telling her it's Hugo Chavez Ray, and even Mary was getting upset and telling her, and she was making fun and all. She was Mary said she was kind of rude in the way she was treating me. Uh, but that was our greeting, and then she left us like 3 blocks from our hotel. We had to walk with our suitcases for 3 blocks. So it's anyway. It was a very interesting trip. We enjoyed it. We got to see the vineyards, got ship home some wine. We went to some great restaurants. Did a lot of walking. I think I don't know. Last count, it was we had walked well over 20 miles in the short time we were there. Um, and then towards the end in Barcelona, we got to go and enjoy the beach for a day. That was pretty relaxing. Got a little bit of a sunburn, which I wasn't planning to do, but it wasn't bad. I managed to stay in the shade mostly. But yeah, it was a fun trip. I would recommend it to anybody that into history. Uh, there's a lot of other places, throughout Spain that are very interesting, and we hope to see some more of that next time we go. But we saw the two major cities, Madrid and Barcelona, and so next time we'll go and maybe go more on the coast and see some of the Basque country in the south, and just gobble up some of the history there. But uh, yeah, it was a fun trip. It's a beautiful country. When we did the train, got to see a lot of the countryside. It's a beautiful country. and the train was a very nice experience. Seats were comfortable. It's like riding first class on an airplane. That's the kind of seats that you had,
Hmm.
I mean, literally, you could not tell, you know, that you were on a train. Everything was so smooth, but as you're watching out the window, you're like flying down the tracks and the landscape. I did take some videos of it. I'll share that uh, with you. You can get a feel for how fast the train goes. Uh, but again, you can't feel anything. It was like gliding on ice. That's how smooth the ride was.
Wow.
I'll have to check and confirm the speed though. That's an interesting. I didn't think about asking on that, but I'm sure that's easily looked up to see how fast it goes. But if I had to guess, I'm guessing we were going 150 miles an hour at least.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do more on a future show. We'll get more pictures and
Yep. All
so.
right. So we're over time. We'll we'll have some interesting shows coming up, and hopefully, some more interesting guests. We've got some elections coming up. Don't forget Prop HH for those of you
Excuse
in
me.
Colorado. Don't be fooled by the commercials that are saying that Prop HH is going to be a tax cut. It's not. It's going to be a steal and an end run on Tabor. You'll never see another Tabor refund again if Prop HH passes. So be aware of that. Uh, don't be fooled by the phony commercials that I've already seen on TV. They're acting like it's going to be some huge tax cut, and that if this doesn't pass, that property taxes are going to skyrocket. Well, it's quite the opposite. If this passes, property taxes will skyrocket, and we'll never see another Tabor refund. So, that's the truth. So we'll talk some more. We've got probably another show that we can dedicate to some of the intricacies of that. But uh, all I can say is people be aware. Thank you for being in the audience tonight. If you didn't get to watch us live, watch us on one of our platforms and go to our website, www.hispanicpatriot.com. Become a subscriber, follow us, support us any way you can. Thank you, and good night. And God bless you, and God bless America.